Extremely exciting news has dropped. Games Workshop has officially announced the new matched play rules. So this is really, really cool. We don't know all the rules, but we know some of them now. So we're going to go through this. Why is this super cool? Why is the chapter approved such a big deal? Well, chapter approved, if you guys are just new to 10th, is basically every time we get new deployments, new primaries, new rules for matched play. And most people tend to have a little bit of confusion behind what is like matched play and what is core rules, all these things. Well, matched play is the things that put certain restrictions on your army. So, for example, the idea that you can't deep strike in turn one, that is a match play rule that's actually not in the core rules. So, match play can really dramatically change the way that people will build armies, and it tends to last for an entire year. So, this is what's going to be like the initial release of 10th was Leviathan. That was a full year. Then we just went through Pariah Nexus, which was a full year. I mean, we still have a few months left of it, most likely. And then this newest one is going to be lasting us probably towards the end of 10th. Maybe 10th might be a 4-year cycle. We don't know yet. But it'll be at least a year of the new chapter approved. And when we get it, we're going to get new deployments. We're going to get new rules for match play as well. So what we were going to talk about right now is I'm going to run you through Games Workshop's announcement of what is in it. And then we're going to talk about some other things that might be really popping up and how it's going to change the game for you. Trust me, it's going to change quite a bit. So basically, these are the cards. This is what the chapter approved looks like. I don't actually know what the chapter approved is. It just says chapter approved 2025, 2026 mission deck. Cool little artwork. It does say that we are going to get a third game mode because previously you have basically had 1,000 points, 2,000 points, and that was it. Well, Onslaught for 3,000 points, I guess. But now we're actually getting a new game mode for asymmetric war games. Now, this is actually pretty dang cool. They're also giving very specific unit restrictions and deployments specifically for incursion. So one of the things that I have always told people is that I don't play 1,000 point Warhammer. I think 1,000 point Warhammer is actually a bad idea and it makes you worse at the game. Simply because the game is not balanced around 1,000 points and it just changes everything. But if it looks like they're releasing rules specifically for incursion, which is 1,000 points, that will change the deployments, it'll make everything specifically for smaller style games. Maybe that's going to make 1,000 point games more interesting from a competitive standpoint. I don't know. I kind of doubt it, but it's interesting to see that they're trying to do it. And then they also have this new asymmetric war, which is pretty interesting. So it says that you're going to have uneven deployment zones and differing primary objectives. So these are the examples they give for us here. And when we look at it, me good. So the actual board itself for the incursion Dawn of War is actually going to be smaller. So 1414. So what is that? 28 or something like that. That's actually going to be a lot shorter than having 1818 here. So to the center objective at least. So the board is actually going to shrink for our incursion. And then when we look at the asymmetric war pincer attack, this is actually really cool. So one person's going to have to deploy in this weird shape, and the other person's going to deploy in the weird red shape. This actually reminds me a lot of like AOS and some of the AOS mechanisms. I'm not sure if I like it, and I seriously doubt this would actually be used for competitive play, but there might be some tournaments out there that do allow you to play asymmetric, which it's fascinating, and I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I'm actually kind of excited to see how it works. I kind of doubt it would make it to being like being played at LVO or played at WTC or anything like that, but it is a really cool change that could really dramatically shake up the way that list building and the game in general is just played. So I actually think it's a super, super interesting idea. They're also going to completely eliminate secret missions. So for those of you who love secret missions in Leviathan and got pissed at them in the Pariah because they were nowhere near strong, well, poof, secret missions are gone. Instead, you're going to get what's called challenger cards. Challenger cards, I also have mixed feelings about. I love the idea of them. I think initially it's probably going to be a little too strong, just like secret missions were a little too strong initially, but hey man, it worked out, balance came out, and people still use secret missions to, well, I guess originally your gambits were useless, and then secret missions came out, and they were too strong, and now secret missions are kind of in this like perfect spot where you generally don't want to take them, but occasionally it is the correct idea. That's basically the way those catch-up mechanisms should be, in my opinion. Although a lot of people tend to think that you shouldn't have any catch-up mechanisms in Warhammer. Like, if you get crushed in turn 2, that's on you. I don't really find myself in that camp. I actually really like the idea of having a catch-up mechanism built into the game that will, hey, if you get screwed in turn 2 and it looks like hopeless, well, because of this sliver, maybe it is worth still playing the game. I actually like that idea. I know some people disagree. I'm actually curious to hear what you guys have, what you guys think in the comments down below, if you like the idea of built-in catch-up mechanisms. But anyway, let's talk about these new challenger cards. So basically, What it says is this new inclusion provides players who are trailing by 6 victory points or more at the start of a battle round with interesting tools to close the gap. Challenger cards have two elements: a powerful, free to use stratagem and a unique challenger mission to undertake on top of your primary and secondary. And you can only choose one. So you either choose to score the secondary or to use the stratagem. Now, these do seem obnoxiously powerful, and the reality is that if you are only down by 6 points, this just gives a huge advantage to the people who go second, because if you're going second, you can kind of plan for how many points you need to just to be 6 points less than the other person, and so you can kind of plan to get these cards, which allows for a little gaminess. And 6 points, honestly, if you're behind by 6 points, it's really not that big a deal. Like it's very easy to make up that gap, so it's not like you're very far behind. So it is kind of an underdog mechanism, but I'm not so sure I like it. It is a very, very powerful. Let's just read these two examples that they gave for us. So one example is you have number one, force a breach. And when you force a breach, oh geez, man, my eyes are stupid. When you force a breach, you go in your movement phase, one unit from your army that has not been selected to move this phase until the end of the phase. Each time your unit makes a normal or advanced move, it can move horizontally through models and terrain features. So basically, you give the Kool-Aid man, I'm here, strat to anything in the game. This is kind of brutal. Like, kind of imagine you're playing World Eaters, and World Eaters are down by 6 points because they didn't score secondaries in turn one, and then suddenly Angron just gets to move through walls, 22 inches. That's it's a flex, man. So it is very, very powerful seeming. I do like the idea. I like the concept of it, but that is a pretty damn powerful card. I don't know about that one. Or hey, you know what? Here's a land raider. Now I'm just gonna drive through the wall and then get my units out. And then it's really interesting. It's gonna change the game a little bit. It just seems super powerful. But if you choose not to use that free stratagem, then you could use the challenger mission, which is one unit from your army that is not within your deployment zone and is wholly within 9 inches of one or more battlefield edges. You just do it and you get 3 victory points. That's pretty easy to accomplish. And the other one is also pretty cool. So the challenger, basically you spend it, and the stratagem, you spend it, and whatever unit you spend it on gets to reroll hit and wound rolls of 1. Also very, very powerful, huge buff. And the stratagem that they provide you with is going to be one unit from your army that is more than 15 inches away from all of the units in your army. You just get 3 victory points for doing the action. Like, it's pretty damn powerful. Those are pretty freaking easy to score. And remember, it does say that you can score these on top of your other secondary and primary cards. So it's like you could just be like, hey, free points. So maybe the problem isn't necessarily the power of the cards, but the problem could be that just 6 points is not much of enough of a gap to maybe warrant these powerful abilities. So, like I said, guys, I'm not bitching and moaning about this. I actually rather like the idea behind it. I think it's very, very cool. It's probably going to need a little fine tuning, just like secret missions needed some fine tuning. And perhaps we'll find that the sweet spot is going to be if you're 15 points behind your opponent on primary. Maybe that would, or on total score, primary and secondary. Maybe that would be the sweet spot for enabling a card like this. And that would also not make people try to game the system by wanting specifically to be exactly 6 points below. So I don't know. I don't know what the correct answer is. I love the idea. I think it's very cool that they're changing the mission, the game, and well, the chapter approved, which is the matched play rules. So I think that's actually a very, very good thing. Interesting how they're doing it. There's other things that could happen as well. So, for example, in Pariah Nexus, you can use new orders as much as you want. But back in Leviathan, you could only use the new order stratagem to redraw secondary once per game. So there's lots of little things. In Pariah Nexus, if you advance, you can't do an action. If you fall back, you can't do an action. However, in Leviathan, if you had the ability to advance and shoot, you could still do actions after advancing. So it will actually dramatically change gameplay. We don't know what they're going to do with all of these, but I'm really excited about it. And the fact that they're announcing it now makes me think this will probably be dropping this June, as that was, if I'm not mistaken, when Pariah was dropped last year, and that should be roughly right about 1 year. So we're probably going to get these in June, just in time to completely change the game for, your world team championships, the world solo championships, the LVO, all those big things. So lots of really, really interesting things coming up here. I'm pumped about it. I think a lot of these Adepticon reveals were really, really cool. I am generally a big fan of whenever GW shakes the game up. Especially when they're not shaking it up with like unit rules and points and stuff. This is actually just a very cool thing to keep the game fresh. You're getting new primary missions, you're getting new deployments. This is sick. I'm stoked for it. I would love to hear how you guys feel about it in the comments down below. So, guys, like, subscribe, share with your friends. I'm got some more tactical stuff for you tomorrow. I've also got another video I'll probably be releasing, which is going to be a hot take, and a lot of people are going to hate me for it, and I do not care, but it's what it is. So I'm going to release it, and I hope you guys will tune in for that. So until next time, crump on. Bye-bye.